We're going to talk about hello, everybody. I can't believe you just did that to me.
Hello.
Listen,
Hello.
listen.
Hello.
Oh man,
Here's what's happening today, everybody. We were
hold
supposed
on.
to,
I got a skid mark from the bus on my back right there when it ran over me.
we were supposed to have Tony Pia, the great drummer from the Doobie Brothers and Maynard Ferguson and Brian Setzer and all sorts of other bands on, and we just spent the last half hour trying to get the technology worked out. We were having issues. This is just one of those days. We've all had them, and so today we're going to be improvising.
We're shooting from the hip.
We have a half hour show, not with Tony Pia, but instead, Rick, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, we can talk about students' questions.
Students
we're all drum
questions.
teachers. Yeah, we're all drum teachers. We're all players. We all teach a real lot, and so I'm sure every day, a student asks us a question, and I'd love to get your answers to questions that my students have asked me.
Perfect.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to throw out there, though, really quick before we go on, while we were trying to get we just had a bump in the road with the technology, and it was fun. One of the things that all four of us were doing, okay, we're all four grown men. Well, at least three of us. We were holding up our favorite Star Wars toys. So
Yeah.
I'm going to start with my favorite two Star Wars toys, Chewbacca and Han Solo. And I kind of like Chewbacca and Han Solo because at first they didn't believe in the Force. They just wanted to kick some butt. And then they learned about the Force and they flew the Millennium Falcon. What's not to love about them? So there you go. Had to do that.
What's the best pizza where they live?
Dude, they go all over the universe. They get pizza everywhere, man.
Really?
They probably have their favorite. We got R2D2. Jeremy had one a little bit ago, but there he is. There he goes.
I bet you R2D2 could double as a great pizza maker.
Oh yeah.
He probably has a built-in pizza oven, dude.
Yeah, that's
Come on.
cool.
Okay, so great questions from students.
Wait. I have to say for the record, I'm not going to do it now, but I do a lot of really good Star Wars imitations. We'll save that for another episode.
Ooh.
Oh, hold on. Do you have a Chewbacca one?
Yeah! Wow!
That was awesome.
That was a good one.
Wow.
Okay, so we went from the Doobie Brothers to Chewbacca. This is total pro show business. We're shooting from the hip. The show must go on.
Can I tell a real quick story about Chewbacca? Is that okay?
Sure, go ahead. Go for it.
My sister was in London and got invited to this party, and they told her that she said, "Is there anything I can bring?" And they said, "Yeah, you can bring 2 Chewbaccas." And she was like, what do you mean 2 Chewbaccas? So she scoured London to find a Chewbacca figurine, and had to go to all ends of the city to find this American kitschy store, and found these 2 Chewbacca dolls that she brought. And she showed up and she walks in and hands the 2 Chewbaccas over to the host, and she's like, "What are these?" And he said, "You asked me to bring 2 Chewbaccas." And he said, 2 ciabattas.
Are you serious? That really happened?
It really happened.
Oh, that's awesome.
So Rick, what questions do your students ask you, Rick?
Sorry.
That's awesome. What are your questions, Rick?
All right, let's see. One I had just this week is, why do I need to learn to read music? You know, as they're playing the part wrong over and over and over again. So I just got to feel it, man. I want to feel these drums.
Yep.
Yeah. So
can I go?
I'd love to hear your thoughts. What would you say, Bart?
Okay. So exactly what you just said with the playing it wrong. And I've had not just drum students, but I've worked with, musicians that are like, I just play off a feel. I don't read, and that's feel is great, right? Groove, time, and feel. When people ask me, well, what is feel? I say, well, you see a room full of people dancing, that is feel. They're moving to the feel that the musicians are creating. And feel is fantastic. You have to play with feel, but to play a part correctly, to really learn a part, to really dive into the nuts and bolts and kind of look at it under a microscope, you can cut through the chase by being able to read. You could go, oh, that's what the groove is. That's what it is. That's how they thought about it. And you know exactly what a drummer played. And then once you know what they played, then you can take the feel that you're talking about so much and you can apply that feel to this correct part, and there you have it. And it's a language. You're speaking a language when you play music. You wouldn't go into a Spanish class and say, I just want to speak Spanish. I don't want to read it and write it, or whatever language you're speaking. So that's my 2 cents.
I
was
like
gonna
it.
say-
Makes sense.
I was
Go
going to
ahead,
say the
Jim.
exact same thing about language. Music is a language that's both auditory and visual, and it's a means of communication. Reading and writing is a means of communication, and it's a way of being able to learn things efficiently and to be able to communicate things efficiently. If you're playing, and there's a whole bunch of gigs you can't ever play if you can't read. You can't play in an orchestra. You can't play in a big band. You can't play a bunch of theater stuff. You can't play Broadway. And you might just say, oh, I don't want to do any of that stuff. I just want to play in a rock and roll band. And, there are a lot of drummers out in the world who can't read, right? So it's not that you can't do it, but it doesn't hurt you. It doesn't help you. It only limits you, right? It just limits how you can understand and communicate and how quickly you can learn things. Because if you're stuck, the only method you have to learn a part is by listening. You might have to hear that part over and over and over many times before you really get it. And what if it's a whole long part? What if you're playing in that Led Zeppelin tribute band and you got to play the whole John Bonham part note for note? You're going to listen to that song how many times before you learn the whole tune, right?
Yes.
But if you're reading, you're at least getting it pretty close on the first couple of tries, and then it's a lot easier to put together. So it's vital. It's vital.
There it is. How about you, Chip?
Well, there's thousands and thousands of drum books out there, and we've been anointed with this technology. Yeah.
Boom, right out of the gates.
Yeah.
We weren't anointed with technology earlier today.
Technology did not anoint us today earlier, but we are now.
There's something else. I'm thinking of a different verb for the technology that happens.
Yes, exactly. But there's thousands and thousands of drum books out there. And when I get a student who asks me, why would I learn how to read music? I usually explain to him that we can, like's been said before, it's a language and we can communicate better, and you can communicate with yourself better. And, you could learn how to read music. Learning how to read music teaches you and opens doors that were previously unavailable. You could go look at some music and learn the drum part note for note, or just learn different drum parts and that help teach you as a drummer, become better as a drummer by reading it. And so I don't know. I've always been a fan of reading music, and I'm in favor of it.
I want to throw this out there real quick because of Tony. Unfortunately, Tony we had some issues with the computer. It's nobody's fault. Tony's a great guy. He's going to be on in March, and you guys will get to meet him and you'll be thankful. When it happens, it's going to be awesome. I took some lessons with Tony, and one of the things that he did, we took this book right here, one of the greatest selling drum books of all time by the great Ted Reed. And I remember talking to him and saying I was working. I wanted to work on some shuffles and swing. And Tony's an amazing swing player, and he can play shuffles like phenomenally. And we started talking about ostinato drumming, and I don't want to get too deep into that really quick right now. But what we did is I had certain ostinatos that I was playing, and then he would say, okay, and we would go, and a lot of you guys have done this. We'd play page 30 out of syncopation. He'd say, okay, now play this ostinato and play those lines with your left hand. Then he'd say, okay, now play this ostinato and play it with your bass drum. And then I don't know if you guys have ever done the down over up, but he'd say, okay, so now read down the column, read down the first measure of it, we're a column, and read over, and then read up, so you're reading up. And that lesson that he gave me, we worked out of this book and we worked out of the Stone book, and so to kind of bring him into the fold, I remember those lessons with him, and it was so helpful, and it really made my left hand come to life. It really did, because I guess we get so used to that 2 and 4, even if we are swinging ding gaga ding, and you're chopping wood. This kind of opens up that left hand a little bit. So reading, um, and this was well into my career, really helped my playing. It just does. So anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to, Jeremy. I stepped on you there. I apologize, dude. Go ahead.
Well, it's okay.
Your thoughts?
I don't have it on me. It's upstairs right now, but I have this little notebook, moleskin notebook that I carry around in my backpack. I take it to shows, and I write things in there all the time. And I write down licks. I've written down things that all three of you guys have played before. I've got a Chip Ritter section in there of Chip Ritter chip chops, and ideas that I come across. I've been to Steve Smith Clinic, and I jotted down some stuff that he was doing in there. And that for me is a great little resource to be able to come back to some ideas that I hear in a recording or in a live show or in a clinic, and then, sort them out later or flesh them out or practice with them, see what I can do. But again, if I can't read and I can't transcribe, that's not available to me. I'd have to remember all that, which I wouldn't remember any of it.
Right. How could you remember your chip chops if you didn't write them down?
I could have a chip chop.
Yeah, exactly.
So Rick, they're kind of fancy.
What other questions do your students have for you?
All right. One thing I always just tell them is that if they go by ear, they probably aren't going to remember what we talked about.
Right.
And what we played. They're going to go home to rehearse, and they're going to go back to just noodling around on the drums. And reading will actually help you with a focused practice, because you're actually on a focused set of patterns or beats or fills or whatever it may be. And that you learn to read, you can kind of teach yourself to play drums too. Just like if you can learn to read a book, you can read a book. You're not going to be able to memorize an entire book, but you could read a book, and then you can highlight certain sections of a written book, and then go back to those and break them down and memorize them.
Right.
And it's all in Finding the Groove, folks, by Jeremy Steinkohler.
The Bible of drumming.
Just read that, and you'll have it figured out.
Yeah.
So,
you'll just have life figured out after reading his book.
Being able to read music opens the doors, man. It just opens the doors to a whole world that's out there and gives you access that you wouldn't have if you don't learn to read.
Right.
Yeah.
Plus, you can find a written transcription of virtually any song. If you're gonna, need to play a cover, you can find a transcription. There's so many great resources of that, and like Drumeo has the most really fantastic transcriptions. There's so many, many songs transcribed. There are thousands of them. Classic rock drum charts. There's YouTube. There's Drumistry and Drumiverse. And
OnlineDrummer.com.
Yeah, OnlineDrummer.com.
Right.
There's so many. I have a list of them that if anybody wants, I'll send you away.
And we're talking about like chip chops, right? And you want to work on your chops. I've been working a lot lately. There's Mr. Rudiments out of the Nard book and the Main Champion. Working on a lot of that stuff with my students. And Jeremy, you mentioned Steve Smith. Okay, here's this really cool solo that Steve Smith put together over a Max Roach thing that and I don't know what solo it came from, but it's a Max Roach phrase. And he wrote this whole entire solo over this one measure of music. And it's phenomenal. And this is on YouTube on a Steve Smith video. And I've been beating on this for a few years, and it does take that long, just kind of just working on that stuff for a few years to just to sharpen your sword a little bit. Okay, Rick, what's your what other questions you got, Rick?
All right. Other questions I got this week. This one's, oh man, this is a loaded question. And a broad spectrum of answers are probably going to come out. But hey, what do musicians make? What do drummers make? What do you guys get paid? Because there's those drummers who are, they're young and they're thinking, I might want to make a career of this. They go, a house in San Diego, $650,000. How many $100 gigs will that take?
That's good. That's good. I'm gonna have to do a lot of $75 gigs to pull this one off.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. The four of us come to that question as drummer educators, right? We all play professionally. We all play in bands. We all play gigs. We do studio sessions, and we teach. And I know back in the day, there used to be more different avenues for professionals to be able to pursue to earn a living. There were a lot more union gigs, there were a lot more
Right.
recording session work, and that stuff isn't there the way it used to be. And I think there are not as many paths, to be honest with you, for professional players to earn a living just playing.
Right.
If you're fortunate enough to play in a rock band or an original band that makes it big, God bless you, more power to you. You're earning the big bucks. That's great.
Right.
But those stories are one out of many, 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 many thousands, right?
Right.
Maybe millions.
Yeah, right. I mean, you just don't want to count on it. Is the point? It's the exception to the norm. So, we figured it out, a way to do it. Okay, we play these gigs that pay some amount. They supplement our income. For me, my gigs are a piece of my income, but they're not the biggest piece. The biggest piece is teaching.
Yep.
And that's a way that I figured out to stay involved with what I love to do, and also share my passion with other people. And also then it allows me to play the gigs that I want to play, where I don't feel like I have to play, for $75 a night, an hour away. That's a 5-hour gig for $75. It's $15 an hour.
Yeah.
That's ludicrous. You certainly can't make a living like that. And unfortunately, the scale of local gigs, the pay of local gigs, it hasn't gone up. I mean,
Right.
When I first got here in San Francisco, if I played a jazz gig for 3 hours at a cafe or whatever, I make $75 or $100. Guess what? That same gig still paying $75 to $100 25 years later.
Yeah.
Certainly I've had gigs that have paid a lot more than that, but they're not like, I'm not on tour with some big name band right now. And so teaching, and is how I've been able to keep it in balance.
Yes.
Right. Chip, toss it to you.
I make a comfortable living on teaching. That's my main source of income. And I was able to do that because I learned how to read music.
Oh man, look at that. The work that, hey, that's great.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. You put the two together, right?
The thing I was told about this from other drummers, professional drummers, one of them, I asked my first teacher about this, making a living as a drummer, and he grabbed my shirt and he pushed me to the wall and he said, "Listen, if you don't absolutely love this,
Yes.
get out now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Get out now. You've got to love what you're doing. You've got to follow your joy. And if you truly follow your joy, something will happen to enable you to keep going."
I agree.
That's about all I can really say on that. I can't, I mean, what you said about gigs not paying, that they've been not paying since I started,
Right.
Right.
and then
Right.
and they got the same gigs out here as Jeremy was talking about, the 3 to 4 hour gigs for $100, and that's a good one. So
Right.
you know what I mean? It depends on how much you love what you're doing. I'd say focus on your joy.
Yeah.
I have a backup plan,
Yes.
Right.
My perspective is exactly the same. My income, the majority of my income comes from teaching.
Yeah.
And I want to for myself, I want to take it to this level with the teaching. I think some people teach because they have to. They're like, well, I'm going to do this till I hit the big time. Well, you know what? Sorry. If you look at the people that are in the big time in the music business, we were supposed to have Tony on today. Tony's played for all these huge artists and he still teaches. I've taken lessons from him. I met him through Greg Bissonette. Greg Bissonette had played at that time. He had played with David Lee Roth, and the list goes on of who he's played for. I remember going to his house to take lessons because he loved passing it on. So if you're going to teach, you got to do it because you love it. And I love teaching because I love seeing the progress that students make. I love seeing students get better and achieve their goals, whatever their goals may be. Um, you know, I I love passing on the knowledge, and also I like to I like to I think try to help people understand something that they can't understand, right? They might be well, like the Steve Smith thing that I showed. I mean, I downloaded that and figured it out, showed it to some students, and I enjoyed digging in with that and showing them how to do that stuff. I really do. So if you like, I'm going to kind of say the same thing Chip did. If you don't like teaching, you don't have patience, don't do it. Like your teacher said, Chip. I come at it from a perspective of being in a band I've been in the Sam Morrison band for 21 years, and I played a lot of $75 shows. I mean, I played a ton of them. I played a lot of shows where I didn't get paid a dime. Don't do those a lot anymore. Not a lot of those anymore. So I'm very thankful that we get to play some casinos and we play theaters, and I make a few bucks at it, and I make some money off of royalties of records. All of us here are published authors, and excuse me, I'll say the same thing. My publisher kind of said the same thing, Chip, that your teacher said to you. He goes, "Hey, you're not going to get rich writing a book," and it wasn't about that getting rich thing. It was like getting my thoughts out there. I wanted to put my stamp on it, so we all do all these different things, teach sessions, write books, published authors, like Jeremy said. And the one other common thread is we all love it. I mean, we're doing this. We do the deck because we love it. We love passing on the information. We love it,
That's it. Yep.
Wait,
Bart, you have it, man.
Pay?
No, deck doesn't
Wait,
pay.
what?
I thought this was a paid gig. The deck.
I thought it was too. I'm not doing this for free. Chip keeps saying he's going to send the checks, but I haven't got one.
That's the problem with casino gigs is the money's gone after my first slot machine.
Hey, you know what? Check this out. You're joking, but I swear to you, I had this happen to me once. I was on the road. We went to Korea, and we played over in Korea, and we were playing a military base over there. And one of the members of the band, we all got paid a little bit in advance. I think everybody got whatever you're going to get paid for the gig. I think we each got $200 before we left. So you had some spending money. And we got there, and there was a casino on the base. And one of the members of the band came up to me, and we'd been there for an hour. "Hey, man, could I borrow some money from you?" I'm like,
"Oh, no."
And he goes, "Man, I just went over to the casino, and I lost my money, and I don't have any money for the next." And we were only there for a short amount of time. He goes, "I don't have any cash on me." "Yeah, sure." He goes, I promise you I'll pay you when we get back home." "Okay, no problem." So I floated him some money, enough to get him through the trip. An hour later, "Dude."
"Oh, no."
"Guess what? You're not going to believe this. I thought I was going to," and I'm like, "No, I'm not loaning you any more money." He lost it again. So my advice, I'm not telling anybody how to live. My advice, if you play casinos, you just got off stage, sweating your butt off, you got your pay, don't play, don't go to bed, go to bed, go do something else. Don't go out to eat. Don't gamble. Don't gamble. Don't do it. Don't do it. You just got up there and did your show, and you're going to give the casino your money back. Don't do that. That's dumb.
I would come back to something Chip said about, his teacher grabbed him by the shirt and he said, "If you don't love it, get out. But if you do love it, you're going to figure out a way." And I believe, just like Chip said, if this is something you're passionate about and you just love drums, you want to play, and this is what you want to do, you're going to figure it out. I do believe, and it goes for anything. If you're passionate about it, the money will come. You'll figure out a way to make it work.
That's right. And there's more resources now for an up and coming musician than ever before. We have that little thing called the internet, and you can look up anything and everything. And clearly the key is to diversify, and little pieces of pie. You can you can teach, you can gig in lots of styles. Gig that's going to help build up all of your chops and make it more practical and possible for you to actually make a living by having all of that experience. So really widen, open up your horizons on the styles that you're into.
Right. Make yourself as hireable as possible.
Exactly. Exactly. Learn some electronic drums, learn some hand percussion, right? Um, don't just play one instrument. Play a lot of instruments. You could learn to sing too. That's going to really really help out a lot. Um, you could work in a music store. Don't expect you're going to get discovered in a music store, but you're going to learn about gear and you're going to be in the atmosphere of drummers. And to me, we lost Bart, didn't we?
Yeah, he'll be back. I bet
Uh,
more technology anointments.
um,
Hey, I'm curious before we move on from this topic. Oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Rick. Did you have something else to say?
well, one quick thing, that the biggest pay that I've received is the experience of being a drummer, of meeting people, of going to lots of places, going to different countries, and all of that. None of that stuff would have happened, and I wasn't really worried about how much I was getting paid. And every once in a while the pay was huge, so that's great. Other times, we were stoked if we just broke even on the road.
Right.
So yeah, just have fun with it.
You can't get to it for the money. If you're into it for the money, you're barking up the wrong tree. That's for sure. Bart's texted has said his internet went down. So more technology fun. We're going to continue on for a few more minutes, and then we'll wrap up a short session today. But we appreciate all you guys tuning in today and listening to us.
Hi to Jim Royal. Hello, Peter
Hey,
Retzlaff. Thanks for watching.
Hey, what's up, fellas? Yeah, we were supposed to have Tony Piet on today, but we had some technology problems earlier with him, so we're going to reschedule him for another time. So we just decided today to do some grab bag stuff out of some questions that our students have been asking us.
So I have another question related to this, guys.
Another question. Okay.
So we know a lot of gigs pay $100, and they have forever, over 20 years, 25 years. So I understand that younger players need to get out and start doing lots of gigs, but are we devaluing ourselves by accepting all of these low-paying gigs?
A little bit.
Yes, absolutely.
I think so too.
There's got to be. I mean, there really should be a minimum that musicians get paid, and that should be like a city ordinance or something like that.
Right.
That you can't pay musicians less than a certain amount, because it's absurd. We spend all these years of our lives honing our craft, becoming experts, and then musicians are willing to go play these gigs where you're playing for the door or you're playing for tips. There's not even a guarantee, and it's like, come on. When you do that, that sends the message to the talent buyers and the venue owners that they can have bands of a certain quality for as little as nothing.
That's right.
And that devalues what we're worth, and that's why union gigs pay a certain amount, because they charge a certain amount, they're required. Yeah, so I think that's bad. That's bad juju to play gigs for very little.
Yeah, and there's players out there who are playing arena level gigs, who've taken gigs for just peanuts.
Yes, good point, Rick. You think, oh, he's on the big stage, he must be making thousands of dollars to play this gig. Not so. I had a friend of mine who's a lawyer for Carlos Santana, and at the time he was on tour. This is maybe 20 years ago. Dennis Chambers was the drummer on tour with Carlos. And you have to understand, Dennis Chambers is one of the best drummers on the planet. One of the best
Absolutely.
of all time ever to play the instrument.
Right.
And, of course, I asked my friend, oh, my gosh, this is the guy who wrote up the contracts. And I said, how much was Dennis Chambers getting paid? How much was Carlos making? He's like, I can't tell you any of that stuff, right? That's privileged information. But he said, right, I can tell you that I'm glad I'm a lawyer and not a drummer.
Yeah, man.
Say that, I know I'm sure he was making a good wage on it, but it wasn't like he wasn't getting rich. Even at the top of the heap, man, you're not getting rich, Yeah. And bands bands you've heard of. I won't divulge names. Some guys I know playing in certain bands. They tour. They're, like you said, Rick. They're happy to break even or like make enough to cover the expenses and maybe have a little bit left over at the end. But it's not a rich person's game. Especially not anymore. With there's what used to be CD sales or record sales. That's gone now too, because it's all streaming and artists get pennies. A penny per play or something like that. It's insane.
Yeah. Man, you just gotta love doing this and diversify, and we have a lot of opportunities to make money now that we didn't have before, at least.
That's
you
also
know?
true.
I've
Yeah.
got my shout out to my student Rebecca Sykes. She just got featured in this online magazine, San Diego Voyager magazine. She's
Go,
recording
Rebecca.
tracks. Yeah, Rebecca, we'll put a link up to her article. She's recording tracks from home for people on Fiverr.
Yeah. That's
and
great.
gigging and gigging in funk bands and punk bands and everything else in between, and studying engineering. And man, you just can't just be a drummer too. You've got to be a business person.
Good
You've
point.
got to be an engineer. You've got to be graphics. All of this stuff,
Yeah.
I think, is part of the formula.
I totally agree. The most successful musicians that I know of on any instrument are the ones who aren't just musicians. They're business people, and they hustle.
Yep.
They hustle to get their brand out or their name, or
Yeah.
establish a name for themselves and a reputation. And they're always come prepared, and they're always on time, and they always got their gear together, and they're easy to work with, and they've got a good website, and they've got business cards or whatever it is. Not anymore, but like they're hustling and they're networking all the time. And that's you can't just play and practice and be the best player. Like, that's what everybody else is doing too, and they've got all the business chops going on.
Yep.
So if you don't learn how to do some graphics and do some social media stuff and market and network, it's gonna be much, much harder to succeed.
That's right. And I had a day job. Confession, everybody. I had a day job all the way into my 40s.
Wow.
And I had a double lifestyle. I did not sleep a lot. I drank way too much coffee to keep going. And I'd work for 8 hours, and then I'd be off teaching, and then I'd be gigging. And you know what? It worked out just fine.
Yeah.
You know what? It was great because I always had the money to reinvest in myself. People walk into the studio like, "Whoa, how did you get all this drum gear?" It's like, well, because I had a real job and I invested in myself and I use all the stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. I didn't have to take every gig. Then I could be choosy. Like, well, I don't have to take this $75 gig, so I wasn't worried about it. So there's nothing wrong with having alternative sources of income.
Absolutely. And that's
Right
another another good point you make there, Rick, is that it doesn't all happen at once. You don't reach the goal of being having the house in San Diego or the apartment wherever just a year into it. It takes time to build up your teaching practice, to build up your playing, to build up your networking and all the people I remember the very first lesson I taught ever. I didn't know what I was doing. I was 20 years old, and some kid had walked into a guitar shop where I was hanging out talking to my friend looking for drum lessons. And my friend said, "Oh, I don't teach traps. My friend Jeremy here does, and I'm sure he'll charge you, same low rate that I do." I'm like, "What are you talking about, man? I don't know how to teach drums." And he said, "Oh, you'd be great. Get back to basics. You're a good communicator." And so first lesson, I was like, "Look, man, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'll show you what I know. I show you the books that I learned out of and talk about stuff I know." And $10 an hour, right? That was 1991. And now it's, I don't know what year it is anymore, but it's a long time later, and my rate's $100 an hour now.
Yeah, that's huge. That is huge. Wow, that is great that you can get that. Bay Area probably it's probably a little bit more expensive than other places, but I'm sure you're worth every cent.
Well, thanks, man. But I just recently raised my rate to that. But for the longest time, I was at 50. For many years, I was at 60, and then 70, and then 80, and 85, and 90. And it's been a slow step-by-step increase based on my confidence in what I'm doing, my knowledge of drumming and resources and being a better and more effective teacher.
Yes.
I wouldn't charge $100 starting out because I didn't deserve it.
Yes.
It wasn't worth it.
To all my students who pay $70 an hour,
you're getting a bargain with
down
Rick
here in
Stojak.
San Diego, you're getting a real good deal. I'm telling you,
It's a bargain. Rick Stojak twice the price.
All right. So is Bart coming back? What's going on with Bart?
His internet's down.
That's just
he's out for the day.
All right. Well, all right. Last question that I've gotten this week is: should I go to college for music?
Great question.
Hmm.
Chip, you got any thoughts?
You know, I unfortunately didn't make it through junior college. I kind of failed out. And I look back and I think about the experience I could have had I gone to college for music. I would say if somebody has the opportunity to, I would definitely recommend going to college for music. I think that there's so many opportunities that open up for people who do that especially in this day and age, I would recommend college if I could. Yeah, I'd say yes.
Rick?
Jeremy, what do you think?
You know, I've got kind of a complicated answer for that. I didn't go to, I got a BA from the University of Michigan, not in music. I studied literature. And when I was a freshman, I went and got the application to Manhattan School of Music, which has got a really great jazz program there. And I filled it out and I had the whole thing sitting on my desk. And all I needed to do was mail it. And I didn't. And I sat there sort of debating and I ended up not trying to transfer to music school because I thought, well, you know, I don't know. I should get a bachelor's just to have something to fall back on. Who knows what I'll need to do. I could always go to music school later. If I just want to play drums, do I need a music degree? You know, I could still do that with whatever degree I get. And so all those were, you know, part true and part rationalizations or whatever. But that was the path that I chose. And I don't have any regrets about it. But music school is an amazing opportunity.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of students who have gone. My kid's probably going to go to music school, conservatory. You get this incredible immersion for 4 years where you're studying with some of the best people in your field who are sharing their wisdom, just like we do in our private lessons.
Yeah.
And you meet other musicians and you make those important connections. How many really great bands came out of college people, you know, meeting each other? Wolfpack, that was a bunch of college kids playing together. Tons of bands like that. So, you know, who you meet makes a difference. The opportunities that happen in college, playing in different ensembles, learning different, you know, taking different music courses, being forced to take music theory and music history, learn piano and composition. Those are all really, really valuable things. So, you know, I guess it kind of comes back to what Chip was talking about with like, are you going to pursue it as a life pursuit? You better be passionate because you're going to spend a lot of money to go to music school. Right. And it's not going to make you employable outside of playing music. Right.
Right.
It's not like that sets you up for some nursing gig or science research or anything like that. Or, you know, I mean, the only thing you're qualified to do after music school besides play music is like, you know, work at coffee shop or something like that. Right. Or wait tables like everybody else. So, you know, again, you better love it and you better be passionate about it because you're just getting the education and you're not necessarily getting a ticket to success or a ticket to financial success.
Yeah.
I have a couple of students who went to music school who graduated and, you know, they're playing same as me and they're trying to pick up some lessons, same as me or whatever. And, you know, it's not like that going to music school is a ticket to success.
Yes.
It's just a ticket to growth, personal growth.
Yep. Exactly.
What about you, Rick?
You know, it kind of reminds me of the old, that old saying, I'm an actor. Like, oh, really? At what restaurant? Right. So you're done with music school and it's not like a regular 9 to 5 kind of thing. You're graduated and suddenly there's all these companies that want to hire you or bands that want to hire you because you went to music school. So you really, you know, you've got to watch your expectations. And I think you have to have that passion and really scope out the school if you're considering going and getting to know the curriculum and make sure it's a curriculum that you're into and the people there are people that you really, really want to work with.
Right.
I tell every student who's really thinking about this to definitely explore it and really, really consider it. I would definitely not. I would just go to community college for anything scholastic. You know, I wouldn't be paying that high bill studying English and math and science. You know, just knock all that stuff out on the local level. And I think it's a good idea to do that, especially the business stuff. You should definitely be taking classes in business. So definitely all about higher education.
Mhm.
And so I think it's just going to really increase your chances of being successful. And what the hell, even if you just went for a year or a semester to explore it, why not try it? It doesn't mean that you have to stick with it for the 4 years. And you'll know, you might go for that first year going in very skeptically, and then decide that was the best move I ever made.
Yeah.
And
Or you might go in like full blasters going, this is my path. And after a year, you're like, you know what? This isn't for me.
that's right, because it could be really, really stressful. You've got to understand your stress. You might be like the world's greatest musician and the best band person to be in a band ever, but maybe your personality doesn't fit the competitive nature of it, and maybe that competitive nature is going to mess you up for your whole life. So
I had a student,
choose wisely.
One of my best students ever, monster drummer, and he went to Manhattan School of Music jazz program, studied with John Riley, and great. First year had a really good experience, but discovered that if he wanted to make it into the top ensembles or any of them, he was going to have to like live, eat, and breathe whatever that music was. And there were already kids who were doing that. There was a kid who was like the Latin drummer. There was a kid who was the bebop guy.
Yeah.
And my student was not so focused on one specific genre to become that good at that he was going to make first chair in the top group. And he lost his enthusiasm for it. He said, you know what, I met these great kids. I started a band, was playing in a punk band. And he went on to be, very successful, had another job, but still plays in bands. Really, really good drummer, and decided that music school wasn't for him after the first year.
Yeah.
I think basically the general point or consensus is, bless you. If you have the opportunity to do it, then go for it. Do it.
Yeah. Yep.
And the passion.
And the passion.
Absolutely.
There it is. Like we did with Drummers Education Connection. We went for it.
Yeah.
And never look back, because it's been a blast, and I learned something every week from all of you and all of our guests. And
there is no try.
like Yoda Master said, go practice.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you guys next week. Who's on next week, guys?
I believe we have Matt Starr.
Matt
Starr next week. Wow, that is really, really great. And Tony Pia out there, we missed you today, man. We're looking forward to meeting you. And, don't worry about technology with all this stuff. We'll figure it all out. And the show must go on.
Exactly. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for tuning in. Take care. Thanks.
God bless.